Hey, what's going on, family? I'm back. And I got a lot of requests to break down the beverage manager. So I'm like, okay, well, shit. That's what we're going to do. We're going to break him down. Hashtag we on his ass over here. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into his statement. But first, I want to take you guys through the order of events. This is what they wanted us to believe happened in this order. And we all remember this footage right here of Kanika walking through this damn kitchen, and they wanted us to believe that she walked in this freezer by herself. We all call bullshit on that. Then we had this motherfucker right here. Remember him? And he walked in there about 8:34. Look at him. He's looking toward the freezer. Put his glasses on, every motherfucker thing. He trying to see what the fuck going on back there. Okay? And they told us that nobody came before or after her until that man popped up in the screen. Then at 12:24, we got the beverage manager. He the motherfucker found her. He found the body. And it looks like, to me, that he goes straight to the freezer. He wasn't looking around. He wasn't looking up under no shit. He went straight to the freezer. He over there for a minute. And then, he comes back out. He don't look scared. He don't look panicked. None of that. He don't. And we all question that shit in the beginning too. Like, I mean, can you imagine like finding a dead body? Yeah, he didn't look like he found a dead body. But then at 12:25, here he is back with a police officer. And I got a strong feeling that this is Detective Walsh. And I'll show y'all that here in a minute. But he takes him back to the freezer. And you see the light come on. So, the detective had a flashlight. Yeah. So we gonna get into this motherfucking statement, man, because we on his ass over here. Now I've always suspected that the hotel was involved. The reason why I put so much emphasis on those niggas at the party was because I feel like whatever happened to Kanika started with the party. You understand what I'm saying? But since I had all these people, asking me like, man, listen, break down the beverage manager because the hotel is involved. So yeah. Let's break down this motherfucking statement, man. Let's get into this shit. Ride with me. Let's go. Now, one thing that I want y'all to take note of is the fact that they interviewed this assistant food and beverage manager at least twice. At least twice. They interviewed him on the 10th, right after he found Kanika's body. And then they interviewed him again on September the 17th. Okay, so this right here, the statement that we about to cover right now, is the interview that they did on the 10th, right after he found Kanika's body. And we're gonna read all that shit, just so we ain't confused about no shit over here, okay? But it says on the early morning hours of September the 10th, they spoke with a Crown Plaza employee in the north parking lot of the hotel. And this is what he had to say. He says, he related to me that he is an assistant food and beverage manager at the Crown Plaza. He also assisted the hotel security at times when needed. He has been employed at the hotel since 2011. I then asked him to walk me through his day on September the 9th. And let me tell y'all what bothers me about this part of the statement. Um, it wasn't just because he told them that he was a food and beverage manager. It was the fact that he added in that he assists the hotel security at times when needed. And it was kind of like, okay, like, I mean, because some of us already were speculating that him and the security was in on this shit. So that just stood out to me. But then he goes on to say that he stated that he was scheduled to work at the hotel starting at 1400 hours, which is 2 o'clock. He began the day like any other day and checked on food and beverage related issues. He completed paperwork for catering events and billing. He continued that he assisted Rosemont Public Safety Department personnel later in the evening and early morning with a search for a missing female in the hotel. He continued that he searched the back kitchen while patrol officers were searching the dock area and the dock roof areas. He explained that this kitchen was originally a kosher kitchen which had been closed for approximately 2 months as renovations for an upcoming establishment were being prepared. He first checked a walk-in cooler. He explained that there is a second door with a walk-in freezer. It was when he went into the walk-in freezer portion, he observed a body lying on its side. He stated that he only saw the body's legs. At that point, he stepped out of the freezer to direct patrol officers toward the freezer. Okay, so let me tell y'all what bothered me about this part. Okay, pay attention, and I need y'all to pay attention to this part. He says that he continued to search the back kitchen while patrol officers were searching the dock area and dock roof areas. So that tells me that he's aware of the fact that they off doing something else. They off checking some other shit. He's the one in the kitchen. Okay? Remember that. Then it says that he checked the walk-in cooler, and then there was a second door. So when he went into the freezer portion, he only saw her legs. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Then he says he was asked again. He stated that he only saw her legs, but did not see the victim's face or torso. He was asked if anyone may have been in the kosher kitchen. He stated again, it had not been used for approximately 2 months as equipment had been removed as part of an upcoming renovation. He believed that a contractor may have been in the kitchen earlier in the day on Friday. It was not known if the contractor had secured the area before they may have left. Like, I don't know about y'all, but none of that sounded right to me. None of it. Like, okay, so you want them to believe nobody's been in this kitchen, but then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, a contractor might have been in there, and he might not have to lock this shit up. Okay, it just sounded fucked up to me. But at the end of the statement, it just says that he provided them with contact information and stated that he was scheduled to work later Sunday, September the 10th, at 1400 hours. So he's due back in at 2 p.m. Okay, he would be available if needed, if they needed any further information. The interview was concluded at 2:24. So at 2:24 a.m., they ended the interview with him. Now, I know we've all been on the beverage manager's ass, and the more and more I looked at his witness statement, I was like, something just don't sit right with me about him. And when I thought about the fact that they interviewed him twice, like I said, they interviewed him on the 10th, and then they interviewed him again on the 17th. I think a bigger question for me was, what transpired between the 10th and the 17th to make them double back and talk to this motherfucker again? So I went exploring, and I'm about to show y'all some shit that I found. Follow me, y'all. Ride with me. Now, this statement was generated on September the 9th, okay? And we know that because at the beginning of this statement, they're talking about the events that led up to Kanika being missing. They're talking about the missing person report, all that. So this report started on the 9th. However, further into this report, they started discussing things that happened on the 10th. And most importantly, one of the things that stood out to me about this statement right here was the descriptions that was given by Police Officer Walsh. And I'm going to show y'all what I'm talking about. So I'm going to highlight this portion right here because I want y'all to understand what Walsh is telling us. And it says, I spoke with Walsh, who advised while he was outside of the hotel checking on the area near the loading dock, one of the hotel security members, later identified as the food and beverage manager, came outside and said something to him, but he couldn't hear what he said. Walsh advised he looked in the direction of him and saw he was waving him over. Walsh said he walked towards him and he said to him, quote unquote, scared the hell out of me. Walsh said that the food and beverage manager looked scared and that he asked him what scared him. Walsh said that the food and beverage manager started to walk inside the kitchen area to show him what he was referring to. Walsh said he stopped the food and beverage manager to figure out what he was talking about and asked him if somebody was in the kitchen. Because at this point, he following the motherfucker. You ain't telling him what happened. He a police officer, so they already on high alert. Nigga, you just want him to follow you into some shit, okay? So then Walsh said that as they entered the doors into the kitchen, the food and beverage manager stopped and just pointed toward the cooler. Walsh advised he walked over to the cooler, opened the door, and advised that the light was off and he didn't initially see anything. And I want y'all to keep in mind, he said that the lights were off and he did not see anything. He said that he then realized there was another door inside the cooler. Um, he said that when he opened the second door to the freezer and the light was off inside there as well. Don't forget that. He said the lights were off inside the cooler and the freezer. He stated that when he opened the freezer door, he immediately saw what appeared to be a woman lying on the floor face down. Walsh said at that time is when he advised dispatch that he had located the female. He said he grabbed her legs to try to shake her to see, to see if maybe she was asleep. Um, but that she was extremely cold and hard. Walsh advised that he did check for a pulse and couldn't find anything. Um, yeah. So understand what Walsh just told us. Now, as he's checking the dock areas, the food and beverage manager walk up to him like, "Hey, look, like this shit, it scared the hell out of me." And then now he just got him following him back into the cooler, and he trying to figure out what's going on. He don't know what's going on, but understand that he said that when he got to the cooler, which is the first door, that the lights were off, and y'all seen the footage. We see somebody turn on a flashlight, whether it be him or whether it be the beverage manager. Somebody turned on a flashlight. Okay, but then he said that when he went into the second part of this cooler, which is the freezer, the lights were also off, but he noticed a female laying by the door. Okay, now that's why I said that I believe that he was the police officer that was walking back in with the food and beverage manager. I mean, to me, 2 plus 2 equals 4. Okay. One of the other things that I want to highlight in this statement is the fact that when they reviewed the cameras, this is what they said. They were advised at 3:32 a.m. They observed Jenkins walk into the kitchen areas by herself and walk back to the areas where the freezer was. They stated you could not see her physically enter the freezer, but you could see what appears to be a light reflect off the door when it was opened. Okay, yeah. Keep that shit in mind, man. They telling us that when they watched the tapes, when they watched the footage, they could see that when Kanika opened up the door, there was a light on back there. Okay? That's what that sound like to me. Y'all let me know what y'all think. But yeah, we're going to move on. So I'm going to show y'all what else I found that came out between the first interview with the beverage manager and the second interview. So let's look at this other statement right here. Now, this statement right here was generated on September the 11th, okay? And it's a statement given by a detective that was called to the scene. She was called to the scene, and when she got there, in this statement, what she's doing is relaying the information that was given to her when she got to the scene, okay? One of the things that stood out to me about her statement was the fact that toward the end, one of the police officers provided her with an update of what he observed on video surveillance. The police officer stated that he observed Kanika walking by herself through the kitchen area. Kanika appeared to be impaired as she was observed stumbling on video surveillance. The police officer stated that Kanika is not observed entering the freezer on video surveillance because the freezer door is out of view on camera. However, the police officer stated that you can see what appears to be a light come on as the freezer door was opened. So understand this. they're relaying to the detective when she gets to the scene. They're giving her updates, and part of the update was letting her know that, hey, look, we saw her on video. We didn't see her walk into the freezer, but we realized, or we noticed that when the freezer door came open, it appeared to be a light coming from down there. Remember, we just talked about that, and I don't know why, but y'all, but that light shit bothered me so bad. And I really don't know why, but it bothers me a lot, because what they're telling us is that, in both statements, what they're telling us is that when Kanika got back there to that freezer, that when that door was open, a light was on. I mean, clearly, that's what they're trying to tell us. Further into this statement, they made it a point to let us know that they interviewed the food and beverage manager. Okay, and we know this, but it also said that at about 2:40 in the morning that they interviewed somebody else. And then don't forget that the food and beverage manager, his interview on the 10th concluded at 2:24 a.m. So now they're telling us at 2:40, now they're interviewing somebody else on the scene. And I ain't gonna even lie to y'all, I thought it was the security guard. Okay? Um, and you know what? I might do a video on him, because I don't think we've touched on the security guard over here. But y'all let me know in the comments if y'all want me to do that shit. If y'all want me to, I will. But another thing that stood out to me about the statement was the fact that when they took Miss Teresa and Lenore into the kitchen, it says that they explained to them that Kanika was observed on video surveillance walking by herself through the kitchen near the freezer. They explained that the security camera in the kitchen is motion activated, and then they pointed out where the camera was located. They explained that no one is observed on video surveillance prior to the time Kanika entered the kitchen area, and no one is seen on video surveillance for several hours after Kanika was observed on video surveillance. And that's this motherfucker right here. That's who they talking about, him. Um, they also explained that the only accessible area to enter the kitchen is the area where Kanika entered, and the video surveillance would have captured the motion of someone entering the kitchen before or after Kanika. Now, understand what they just told us. They told Miss Teresa and them that the only way you can get into this kitchen is the way that Kanika came in. But we all know that's a lie. And I'm going to show y'all here in a minute. That's a lie. Yeah, so let's continue on with this statement, because I feel like it's important that we examine how the police was moving throughout this investigation. What moves were they making? And that's what we're doing right here. We breaking that shit down. Um, but another portion of the statement that stood out to me was the fact that they released the scene back to the hotel at about 5:32 a.m. on September the 10th. But prior to clearing the scene, two detectives examined the latch mechanism on the freezer doors. The latch appeared to be functioning properly. Once inside the freezer, a white circular handle pushes in to activate the latch and open the door. Both freezer doors were swinging doors with hinges on the left side. Both freezer doors opened in an outward direction and were self-closing. And for those of y'all who don't know what that shit means, that means that when you open up this motherfucking door, it's supposed to close by itself. Okay? Self-closing. That's what that is. However, the first freezer door appears to stay slightly ajar upon self-closing. So what they're telling us right here is that the first door, which actually leads to the cooler, that very first door, when they opened it, it didn't close by itself. It stayed slightly open. Okay? But then the interior freezer door appears to fully latch upon self-closing. So the freezer door worked, okay? The freezer door doing what it's supposed to do. But that very first door is not. So, yeah, I want y'all to think about that shit for a minute. Don't forget that. So after they address the latch mechanisms, they go on to discuss the temperature. And they address the temperature gauge for the cooler and the freezer. And what they tell us at the bottom of this statement is that at the time that they processed the scene, the cooler temperature gauge was at 44 degrees and the freezer temperature gauge was at 34 degrees. However, as previously stated, the freezer doors remain open during scene processing. So to get a more accurate reading, power to the freezer will be turned on again during subsequent investigation. After a minimum period of 24 hours with the power on and doors shut, the temperature of the cooler and freezer will be recorded. And I want y'all to keep in mind, because now they're wanting to know, like, what was the temperature when she was in there? Because, of course, I mean, if they're processing the scene, the doors are open. So, of course, yeah, they need a more accurate reading. So, in this report, they're pointing out that they know they need a more accurate reading. So, that's what the fuck they plan to do. So, yeah, keep that in mind. Because, like I said, we watching them move too. And let me show you some other shit real quick that happened before the second interview with the beverage manager. Now, the statement that we just went over was generated on September the 11th. So now let me show you another report that was put out on September the 11th. And in this report, it describes a detective contacting the Crown Plaza, asking about the video footage. You know, there it sounded like to me they asking like, why the fuck we ain't got it yet? Like, we told the assistant general manager what time frame we needed. Like, why we ain't got it yet? And it sounded like that this contact was made over the phone. That's what it sounded like to me. But then on September the 12th, the police took their ass up there, okay? And they talked with the general manager and the senior VP, and they were given three pieces of information. One being the credit card user activity log. They were given the folio for room 926, and they were also given a printout of the hourly employees for September the 8th through September the 10th. Now, I don't know about y'all, but that struck me as odd because it was like, okay, y'all want the printout for the hourly employees? I'm like, okay. But then when I read further into this statement, the police tells us that they were advised that the printout of hourly employees received did not include the names of any managers that were working those days, as managers do not punch in. I mean, so, like, why not? I mean, like, then they must be salary. But damn, they don't punch in. I've been salary before. I mean, I still had to punch in and out. Make sure I was, because I had to work a certain uh, amount of time. So they needed to make sure that I was working that time. So why aren't the managers on this list? Yeah, okay. Well, that happened September the 12th. But then on September the 14th, they got the footage. Okay? They got both flash drives of the video surveillance of Kanika walking around this hotel. They placed into evidence on September the 14th. Follow me, y'all. Y'all understand where we at now? Now they have the footage. They picked up this footage on September the 14th at 11 o'clock in the morning. But then in the afternoon on September the 14th, guess what these motherfuckers did? They went and conducted a door knock in an attempt to interview Crown Plaza Chicago employee. They conducted the door knock with negative results. So do y'all understand what's going on right here? They didn't got the footage. They got the footage earlier that morning. In the afternoon, they looking for a nigga, but they didn't find him. But then on September the 15th, they interviewed a hotel employee. Y'all remember this motherfucker right here? I did a video about him a couple months ago. You know, the motherfucker that didn't want to talk in front of his supervisor. We was questioning then, like, why not? That's what stood out to me. Not only that, they asked him about his brother. They wanted to know if he knew Kanika. They wanted to know if he was at the party. But most importantly, he did not want to speak in front of his supervisor. So, I mean, was that coincidence or what? What I mean, what else could this be? So now that we've highlighted some of the information that came out after the beverage manager's first interview, I want y'all to look at the second interview. And understand this. In that first interview, it seemed more, the tone of that interview seemed more casual. You know, they told that motherfucker, walk me through your day. So that interview, they just let a motherfucker talk. You understand what I'm saying? But then we're going to look at the second interview. And notice the tone of the interview this time around. It's more direct, more focused. So let's get into this shit. So this is the second statement. It says, on the evening of September the 17th, the detective conducted a follow-up with the food and beverage manager at the Crown Plaza Hotel. At that time, the detective asked the food and beverage manager if he recalled looking at the temperature gauge on either the walk-in cooler or the walk-in freezer. The food and beverage manager stated that he didn't look at the gauge at all. So again, I just told y'all that they were going over the temperature gauges, okay? And they even said that they was going to go as far as doing a test to see what the temperature was when she was actually in there. Now, at the point of this interview right here on September the 17th, I don't know if they had did that test. I ain't seen no paperwork on it. So I don't know if it was completed by this time, but we do know that they wanted to do a test to see what the temperature was, and they're asking him about that. So yeah. Then it says in his statement, the detective then asked the food and beverage manager again about whether or not the doors to both the cooler and freezer were closed. The food and beverage manager was sure that both doors were closed and latched. Okay? This is what he said. But don't forget the little test that they did. Remember they said they was testing the latch mechanisms? We just talked about that. Gray Hughes put up a video, and I took a clip from it because even he noticed what the police was trying to show us in this video. So pay attention.
Now this is from inside that same door. Now watch this freezer, or the cooler door, it shuts, but it doesn't quite shut all the way, if you notice.
Exactly. And that's what the police told us, remember? They said that the door to the cooler did not close all the way. And we just saw that with our own eyes. It didn't. So don't forget about what the food and beverage manager said. He was sure that the doors were closed and latched, both of them. Now, okay, so these motherfuckers want us to believe that not only did Kanika walk herself into this motherfucking freezer, but that she closed the door behind her because she would have had to. If nobody was back there after she went in, up until the point the food and beverage manager found her, if there was nobody else back there, how the fuck did the door get closed? Because clearly it don't close all the way. But the food and beverage manager told us they were both closed and latched. Yeah. Okay. Come on, man. Yeah. Let's finish with his statement. It then says that the detective then asked the food and beverage manager if he recalled if the lights were on in either the walk-in cooler or freezer portions. The food and beverage manager stated that he couldn't recall, but that he was sure he didn't flip any light switch on the cooler or freezer. He stated that he was searching the units with his flashlight on his key ring. Now, I done told y'all, this shit about the lights really bothered me. And let me tell you why. Because in the beginning, the police told us that when they watched this video surveillance, when they saw Kanika going toward this freezer, that when the door opened, the lights were on. Okay? And then don't forget about what Police Officer Walsh told us. And that's the motherfucker the food and beverage manager went and got. When he got to the cooler, the lights were off. So who the fuck turned the lights off? So now they want us to believe that not only did she walk in this freezer, that she closed the door behind her and she turned the lights off. Come on, man. Come on, man. I know we can't be that naive. We couldn't be. How is it that out of all the questions that was asked of this food and beverage manager, he can't recall whether or not the lights were on? To me, that's some simple shit right there. They were either on or they were off. That's it, and that's all. Let me tell y'all what I think happened. I think that this food and beverage manager was not anticipating on them asking him about the lights. That's why he didn't have an answer for him. He didn't know how to answer that. He didn't. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that shit. And then not only that, he made it a point to tell them that he ain't touched shit. Remember, he said I didn't. He was sure that he ain't flipped any light switch. So he telling y'all, I know I ain't touched shit, but I don't remember if the lights were on or off. That shit don't sound right to me, y'all. It don't. But let's continue. The detective then asked the food and beverage manager if he knew why the power was still on to both the walk-in cooler and the freezer. The food and beverage manager stated that the hotel was not using the units, but that they were being leased to the group that was opening the new restaurant in that area. So yeah, they want to know why the power's still on. If y'all telling them that y'all haven't used this portion of the hotel, why is the power on? So they're questioning that part. And the food and beverage manager, he distanced himself from that by saying, "Look, I don't know why the power was on." Like basically saying, "Look, we ain't got shit to do with that. It was being leased to another group." Okay. It then goes on to say that the detective asked him if he knew the normal operating temperature of the freezer. The food and beverage manager stated that he was unaware of what the normal operating temperature was. He stated that he was unsure of the schedule at which engineering checks the coolers and the freezers. He did recall that the cooler and freezer units were cold when he went in. So he's telling them that when he went into this fucking freezer, he remembered it being cold, but you don't remember if the lights was on or off? Yeah, I'm still on that. Yeah. And then at the end of his statement, it says that they asked him what his reaction was to finding the body in the freezer. He stated that he had never found a body and was extremely nervous. He thought that the police officer, Walsh, was searching the area was behind him when he entered the cooler. But when he noticed that he was not behind him, he went outside to go get the police officer Walsh. He went to go get him. So, yeah. He's telling us that he thought the police officer was behind him. But I told y'all what he said in his first statement. While he checked the kitchen, that the police officers was checking the dock and the dock roof areas. So I told y'all he was aware of them being somewhere else. Now in his second statement, he wants us to believe that, oh shit, I thought that motherfucker was right behind me. Come on, man. Nah. He knew that police officer was not behind him. And like I said, he walked straight to the freezer. And last thing, y'all, look at where he came in from. He didn't come in the same way Kanika came in. He came from somewhere over here. But he left out the same way Kanika came in. Y'all understand what I'm saying? But yeah, I ain't gonna hold y'all much longer because, yeah, I ain't never did no video this long, but I needed to make sure I put all this shit out there. And if I gotta come back with a part 2, I will. But I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about his statements, man. Like, because that second one, they seemed more focused. And it almost felt like the police was suspecting a hotel employee too. I mean, y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. And I salute all the YouTubers that's out this motherfucker tracking his every move. Because we should. Because this food and beverage manager, he knows something about something. And we on his ass. Know that.